we are back, and we just finished watching 1979, The Black Hole, currently streaming on D+. This is rated PG with a runtime of 1 hour and 38 minutes. This is directed by Gary Nelson, with writing credits to Jeb Rosebrook, Barbash, Richard H. Landau. Wonder if any relation to Martin Landau.
Who knows?
This is a film that I can't believe you and I both possibly saw in the same place.
Yeah, Radio City Music Hall.
Radio City Music Hall.
Back when it first came out. Mm-hmm. Who knows? Maybe we were in the same theater. Maybe.
Do you want to give the Cliff Noted version?
This is an old movie, so I'm not going to be ginger about the spoilers here. Basically, what's going on is there's a crew of people on a ship, the Palomino, while exploring through space, looking for new places, for, I guess, habitable planets or whatever. I think that was what their mission was. They encounter a gigantic black hole in space. And while they're analyzing this huge black hole, they notice that there is a spaceship hovering quite close by.
Right.
And they look it up on the registry or whatever, and they realize it is a ship that's been missing for
20 years.
For 20 years or something like that. And the captain of that ship was this sort of like arrogant scientist guy. And one of the crew members of the Palomino, what's her name?
Dr. Kate.
Dr. Kate.
Her dad.
Her dad was on that ship. So she's like, oh my God, maybe my dad's still there. Yeah, spoiler alert, he's not. So they end up going to the ship. They meet the crazy scientist. Well, apparently, all the
they sort of seem like they're being sucked into the black hole, but somehow.
Well, I mean, that's irrelevant. I'm just giving a synopsis. Okay, we don't need to go in any colossal detail. If you want to see what the amazing adventure, go watch The Black Hole. I wouldn't recommend you do. Live in nostalgia, please. They end up on the ship. They meet the crazy mad scientist. The entire crew, he says. Or he claims, when I got the order to return back to Earth, I ignored the order, but I said, okay, crew, you could leave. And the crew left. And he's surprised that they didn't make it back to Earth. Meanwhile, over these 20 years, he's staffed the entire ship with robots. So there's like 3 different types of robots. There's like these drones that just have like Cobra Commander masks on. Then there's
they're like sort of like his army.
No. The ones with the Cobra Commander masks are just hooded guys.
Sorry.
Don't you know what Cobra Commander looks like? Come on, G.I. Joe.
I was thinking of isn't Cobra Commander the one with like the whatever? With the whatever.
How could you?
I thought the red guard guys.
No, those robots look like crap. The Sentry robots. There's the Cobra Commander guys who are just drones. They're hooded. They have glass faces.
Or glass masks.
Glass masks. Then there's the Sentry drones, which look terrible. Look absolutely terrible. And they decided, creative choice to make them move like really bad robot dancers. Mm-hmm. And then there's Maximilian.
Who, as a child,
was terrifying. Yeah. He's just this floating red monstrosity with 6 segmented arms that have blades on them and lasers and all sorts of stuff. And his red visor doesn't make a single noise except for the weird when his head turns. So he's got this entire ship staffed by robots. These people, they have to land on the ship because their ship gets damaged by the black hole. And they're trying to find out what's going on. The guy's like, he's sort of friendly, but they can tell something's up. Throughout the course of the movie, you learn that the drone robots are actually the crew. He basically lobotomized them, I guess, and turned them into sort of humanoid android slaves. Mm-hmm. And his plan is, I'm going to fly into the black hole because if I do that and I do it successfully, because I have this technology that will let me live going through a black hole, I will, I guess, see God or find some place where the laws of nature don't apply. It'll be this new frontier and I'll be the first one to explore it. I guess, yeah. So that's his master plan. He gets one of the people on board, Anthony Perkins, who thinks that he's just like Dr. the greatest genius ever.
Yes, he was like in love with
Anthony Perkins always plays a slightly mentally disturbed individual. Nobody else is convinced. Anyway, things get revealed. Hijinks ensue. They try to escape. He tries to stop them. The ship starts heading into the black hole. A meteor storm comes out of absolutely nowhere, just annihilates most of the ship. Maximilian starts killing people. They fly into the black hole, and at the end of the movie, somehow the scientist and Maximilian have, I guess, merged into one being, and they're in hell, and the rest of the crew flies through a gateway following some fluttery angel lady through heaven into maybe another universe? I don't know. The film just ends there. It's a train wreck at the end of the movie. It is such a load of absolute nonsense. Oh my God. It's aggravating because you're watching it and you're thinking, all right, maybe this actually was a decent movie. And then it just completely self-destructs. Oh my God. I don't think it's self-destructs.
I don't think, okay, I agree with you that the ending is not strong.
It's terrible. It is flat out terrible. It's like one of the worst endings ever I've seen in a movie. It's so bad. From the moment that the meteor shower just appears out of nowhere, it was like the writers were just completely winging it. They were like, oh, the Palomino.
Is that where the movie lost you, at the meteor shower?
It really lost me during the laser gunfight big battle to get back to the ship with all the drone robots, because whoever was in charge of scoring this film decided to set this exciting action set piece where they're fighting their way
marching music
with the most passive, flaccid sort of soundtrack. It's the sort of music that you would hear at the end of the movie when everybody gets a medal, not when they're actually fighting for their lives. It was so out of place.
I felt like there was too much music in this.
I didn't mind the music. It was just soundtrack music, but I really feel like they were like, oh man, you remember in Star Wars they had this amazing orchestral music? We got to put more of that stuff in this movie. And they were just like, all right, just throw it in there. Not even listening to it and seeing if it matched what was going on in the moment. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's okay to have exciting orchestral music when things are going on. In Star Wars, when they're running through the Death Star trying to fight their way back to the Millennium Falcon, it's like, it's exciting.
Yeah. John Williams did a good job on
this
that.
Was like, dun, 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 dun. It was so boring. And they're like fighting for their lives. And
this was better than Krull.
No.
Get out of here.
This was not better than Krull.
You're a liar.
This was not better than Krull. Krull was better than this movie.
No.
Krull had a better ending than this movie had.
What was the ending of Krull? I don't even remember.
They save the princess and they defeat the bad guy.
Just made that up?
No, that's exactly what happened at the end of Krull. A lot of people died, but they win the day. And this one, do they win the day, or are they hurtling through space in a tiny can with their only future is either suffocating to death or resorting to cannibalism to survive? Because there is nothing for them. They're floating through space.
But at the end, they're hurtling towards a planet.
Maybe. You see something eclipsed in the distance.
It had to be a planet.
It maybe. Yeah. Ugh. The ending just annoyed the hell out of me. It was so terrible.
Okay, fair enough. It was not a strong ending, but I don't rage hate it like you do.
It was terrible. And then you have one of the characters, Ernest Borgnine, who seems like this likable character throughout the entire movie. Well, not the entire movie, but 90% of the movie. And then suddenly he is just this sniveling coward who abandons everybody to die and then completely screws up his betrayal and ends up crashing his ship back into the main ship.
No. He gets shot. Remember, what's his name? Reinhardt had...
Yeah, he shoots him too, but even before that, he had no idea what he was doing piloting the ship. He was a reporter.
Yeah.
What the hell does he know how to fly a rocket ship?
Yeah.
He ends up getting shot. That ship hits the main ship.
And causes damage.
Causes some damage, and then suddenly it was like the writers were like, well, that's not enough damage. Meteor shower. Giant meteor shower that comes out of nowhere, completely unexpected. Meanwhile, these people are in space. It's not like as though they didn't have sense. They're like, oh, we sensed this spaceship like miles and miles away, and yet somehow nobody noticed a gigantic swarm of meteors with meteors that are large enough to fill up this entire giant chasm that runs through the center of the ship. You don't see that. And they're glowing. They're glowing meteors, too. It's so stupid. Just incredibly stupid. And then it goes through, and the ship's torn to pieces. There's parts where there's, I'm guessing, explosive decompressions because you see some of the robot drones floating out through the ceiling, and sometimes they're fighting against it. And then sometimes they are floating in it, and yet somehow nobody's suffocating. It's like they just gave up. They really just gave up. It was terrible. What did you think?
I didn't hate it as much as you. I do agree. The ending is not strong. There were a couple of things that were like head scratchers. I'm wondering if this had been like if they had lengthened it a little more, but I think for 1979, this was as much attention you were going to get from an audience, so it needed to stay within that hour. I don't think
minutes. Making it longer would have helped at all, because to me it felt
story
long.
Better. They could have. I mean, I feel like this particular script could have been vetted a few more times, maybe gone through 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more rewrites, and to really flesh out the story. I think the kernel of what they were trying to go for was really interesting. However, there were parts of it where I was just like, huh? For example, Dr. Kate, who is apparently clairvoyant, and I remembered that, but only with tin cans. Like that.
Yeah, she's got ESP.
She's a robot whisperer.
But she can only communicate with Vincent, the floating robot voiced by Roddy McDowall.
Excellently voiced by Roddy McDowall.
I liked him better when I was a kid.
You liked Vincent better?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I thought, yeah, all right, I like Vincent. I like Bob especially because he looked battered and he had Slim Pickens' voice.
Yeah.
Now, older, I found him annoying.
Really?
I found Vincent annoying because it was like, I'm just going to spout random anecdotes and colloquialisms to explain everything. And it was, okay, once in a while is all right, but now you're getting kind of preachy, and I kind of want to kick you out of an air shaft.
Did you still like Bob?
I still like Bob. Bob was not pretentious at all.
No.
Yeah, Vincent, he was cool. He was cool when I was a kid, but as an adult, he was... If you knew somebody like Vincent at a party, you would not want to sit next to them.
What did you think about Maximilian?
Maximilian was still creepy.
Yeah.
I still liked Maximilian. As a kid, it's funny, and it still popped into my head. As a kid, his head still looked like a Rolo. Didn't it?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. It was that little dome shape, but he had the angry red visor.
Yeah.
And I like that he floated around like he. Yeah. I liked how the robots fly. I mean, clearly they did that because
it was
it's
pretty
just
smooth
easier
for 1979.
Yeah.
I much like today, I believe that as a child I was confused by I don't know if it was a romantic embrace between the Doctor and Maximilian.
That was bizarre at the end. Yeah.
And I felt like
it looked like they were about to make love.
Yes. And I felt like you, Maximilian, sort of walked away when the big jumbo flat screen that was projected fell on the Doctor. Yeah. And you saw that, and yet you still walked away. So, and I felt like at one point I was like, didn't he die? Why is he just floating in space like that? And would he still be
And it looked like he aged. He had a white beard suddenly.
Yeah, and his hair grew longer.
I don't know what was going on.
So that I found that kind of puzzling. The line, I think I told you, the line where he says to Kate, "Save me from Maximilian."
Yeah.
Like that felt so out of place in regards to the whole movie. Because in the whole movie, he's just like this pompous, arrogant, bullyish kind of character. Like I don't even think that he feared Maximilian throughout the rest of the film. He basically just barked orders at Maximilian.
And then suddenly he's just like save me
to have that like moment was just it felt very out of place. So I wonder if this script was originally something else that got
butchered
and like, okay.
And that was just
but it was still weird that this particular line wasn't edited out because it really has no place in this movie.
No, I mean, you think maybe that's going to lead to something, but no, it doesn't lead to anything.
Yeah. If anything, it sort of makes
It makes even less sense that somehow I guess Maximilian saves him at the end
and allows him to live within his physical whatever.
Don't know.
And so that I found that weird.
In my mind, if I was going to fix this, and that, because that line is actually, it's probably one of the more creepier lines.
Yes, it is.
And it makes you spark some imagination. There's the whole concept of like ESP between a human and a robot. I would have had the scientist. What was the scientist's name? I feel bad that I keep calling Reinhardt. I would have had him have some sort of ESP connection to Maximilian, and somehow Maximilian was connected somehow with the black hole, and the black hole was telling Maximilian to make the scientist do whatever the hell he was doing on the ship, and it was just evil. Just because Maximilian is clearly this. It looks evil.
Yeah.
He didn't build a friendly helper robot in the slightest bit. Like, why?
Bob is friendly looking.
Yeah, Bob's friendly. Got the cute eyes and whatnot. Maximilian, everything about him is not built for friendship or friendliness or even helping. He doesn't have like little helper hands and gripper claws that pick stuff up. He has claws and blades that spin.
Yeah.
And like weird wands that shoot electricity and lasers and whatnot.
Yeah.
This thing is just built for killing.
Yeah. Yeah, he Cuisinart Dr. Durant.
Yeah. And I could see, that he makes this machine hoping that he'll have this helper and he'll be able to communicate with it with his ESP. But then the machine is basically turning the tables on him and making him a servant of whatever's being broadcast from this black hole that's possessed Maximilian, and is through him is, I guess, possessing the doctor or the Reinhardt. That would have been interesting. That would have been cool. And then just jettison all that crazy shit at the end, that kaleidoscope of nonsense that we get. That ending just ticks me off. So
my notes here would have been, I really liked it. Okay, so I agree with you about the Ernest Borgnine character.
Yeah, he just suddenly is just a dick.
So to me, I'd say, as much as I like Ernest Borgnine, skip him.
Yeah,
just completely take him out.
He didn't serve a purpose, yeah.
Just let it be Charlie, Dan, and Kate, and the robot, and Vincent, right? The four of them.
Yeah, and why would a reporter be on a spaceship?
And Durant, because I think you need the Durant character.
Yeah.
The Tony Perkins character. So I think, just make it the four humans and the robot. Get rid of the reporter and have it so that kind of what you were saying, but not. I think when I was watching this, I thought about other movies because I think I didn't rage hate it like you did, but I was watching it, I was like, okay, well, what could have made this better? Definitely amp up the sinisterness of Maximilian, because he even has that cool name, and sort of like Ex Machina, make Maximilian sentient, become, instead of the servant, become the master. And then that line makes sense.
Save me.
Save me, right?
Yeah, that would have been that would have made total sense, and it would have been like, oh my goodness.
Right. Because it's like, even though you don't like Reinhardt, you sort of like, wait a minute, and then you can kind of create like the sympathy for him, and then his death becomes more impactful because it's like, oh, well, he was subjugated to this kind of existence. It's sort of like a nice like fall type character, because he basically fell to his own arrogance. He built this thing, right,
thinking, oh, I will have this excellent servant that will help me basically subjugate everybody else on this ship.
Right.
And in a way it did, but he became subservient to
Maximilian.
This entity, this creature that he created. It's almost like some sort of like Frankenstein sort of thing.
Yeah. And make Maximilian then become the real antagonist of the story, because now maybe he absorbs some of Reinhardt's mania to get through the black hole, or maybe kind of like what you said, there's something on the other side that's calling to Maximilian, and have it be that.
Yeah, have the sentience come from somewhere. Right.
I didn't like the idea of the crew going through the black hole. Like, I thought that was not necessary.
Yeah, and I mean, that was back when we just thought black holes were something you could just dive into.
Right. Yeah.
Now it's like,
if you go in there,
you never actually get there because you get to the event horizon and then you're
boom.
pretty much stuck there for forever.
Yeah.
I mean, if you read anything about black holes.
Yes. Well, nothing could survive in a black hole, right? So
they're not even really a hole, to be honest.
Yeah. I wonder why they call it black hole.
Because they just thought it was a big hole that sucked everything in.
I think the first time I saw this, I think I said to you, like, I was scared. Not Exorcist scared, but scared the first time I saw this. And it seemed like at this time, I don't know what else was going around, but I think in the early 80s, The Black Cauldron also came out, which was also a Disney movie, which was also on the dark side. And it's kind of interesting that these two films are sort of like relegated to almost non-existence. And it's unfortunate because I feel like I said, the kernel here was interesting and you could really play it up, especially with like an audience today. I mean, there's so much talk about AI and generative AI and sentience of these beings. And it's like, I think this would really be an interesting story to remake.
Yeah, this is the type of movie that should be redone.
Yeah.
Instead of taking something that was successful to begin with and was pretty much perfect as it was.
West Side Story.
West Side Story, Total Recall.
Overboard. Point
Break. They take these popular movies and then they're like, oh yeah, we'll redo it and it'll be even better. No, it's never better.
Yeah.
Take something like this, something that had kind of potential.
That maybe wasn't successful. Although this movie made $15 million over budget, but according to the stuff I read, it's considered a flop.
Yeah. But like this is the sort of film I definitely feel would be better served getting the remake treatment because you could keep elements of it. Like I said, the core is good. Mm-hmm. This mysterious ship you thought was gone. On the edge of black hole, crazy scientists, evil robots, all this other stuff that you could work off of. Come up with a freaking ending. I mean, there's no way you can make a worse ending than what we just got. But yeah, this is the sort of thing that you definitely work on and try to remake. And as far as like this particular point in like Disney's, it feels like Disney was
just phoning
trying. No, they were trying to like get a little darker, I guess.
Yeah.
And they just weren't. They really were not good at it.
No.
It's funny because this film came out around the same time as Star Wars.
Came out after, and I think they were trying to capitalize.
They were trying to capitalize on some of that, that sci-fi sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's still filmed in that sort of like old Disney movie way with that flat lighting and just. It's filmed in that like it could be like Swiss Family Robinson in space,
Absolutely. But although I mean, obviously Disney isn't hurting for money, and it looked like I don't know if this is like a cleaned up print.
I'm talking about like that the scenes with people is what I'm talking about. The scenes outside
were lovely,
were great. The models that they used for the ships, everything was good. The green screen there was like one dodgy green screen thing when they were sort of like. Coming up the elevator shaft, which was you see that looked like crappy green screen, but everything against the backdrop of space because it was very dark. They were able to get away with a lot. The black hole looked fantastic.
Yeah,
the
Sigmas is that
the Sigma I think or whatever the name of the ship.
The ship that
this big scary looking ship. It really looked good.
Yeah,
but everything that was filmed inside.
Yes.
Had that sort of
strange lighting.
Bland, very utilitarian way of it was almost like it could have just been on television. No effort was made to make dramatic lighting or dramatic angles or anything. It was the most bland, pedestrian sort of animation. You stand here, make sure you hit your mark, and that's it. Like no real close-ups, no real emotion on anybody's character. It's sort of like Swiss Family Robinson or any of those films that Disney was making around in the 70s. The Shaggy Dog or the Cat from Outer Space. That sort of crap.
Yeah.
And then you have Star Wars where there's like dramatic lighting and
that came out 2 years prior to this, and it looks much more.
Or Alien,
amazing.
which came out the same year.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ! If you look at how Alien is filmed, and then look at how The Black Hole is filmed, and you see what dramatic lighting and just staging
really
and sound effects and music can create this crazy, just intense atmosphere. That's part of the movie. It's almost like the best actor in the entire film.
Yeah.
And then you look at The Black Hole, and it's sort of like, okay, make sure everybody's in the shot. All right, we're done. Next. It's just lame by comparison.
Yeah. It's too bad. I mean, I really feel like the kernel of the story was interesting, and it could have really been done better. Maybe the writers just gave up, or they just weren't in tune with this.
I don't know what happened.
I think that if you gave this to somebody who really appreciates the genre of sci-fi, like, they would do a better job.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think at this time they were just like, let's try and make something a little bit more adult. Instead of G, we're going with PG.
PG. Right.
Which is, even today, is PG is like for little kids.
Yeah.
And Disney just was not good at it, because we reviewed The Black Cauldron too, and
that was terrible.
Does not hold up it lives in nostalgia. That's it.
Yeah.
Watching it now, you're just like, this is kind of garbage.
Yeah. I couldn't get over how bad that was. Although I think I'd rather watch this
I would
again.
rather watch Black Cauldron than this. This was crap. This was crap. This was better than The Black Cauldron. No, this was a bad movie. It does not hold up. You have some slight memories from childhood. Keep those memories. Do not watch this movie again, because they will be shattered. I thought Vincent was awesome when I was a kid. Now I think he's a prick.
Incorrect. You are completely incorrect.
No, I am 100% correct in this. This film should just live in your memory and stay there. Wait for the hopeful remake where they just jettison the entire last 2/3 of this script and make something new and exciting.
I wonder what they could do with this property. I mean, I really feel like it's ripe for a remake. I'm really surprised they haven't come back to this well.
There's so much other stuff that they'd rather. And like I said, whenever they do make a remake, it's they'll pick something that was popular. It's sort of like, wow, that made us money. That was popular. Let's do it again.
It's funny though, because they've really embraced Star Wars. We still haven't seen Ahsoka, but they've really embraced that universe. But I think it's because there's such a huge fan base there. Yeah. So it makes sense to really.
Well, Star Wars holds up. You could watch it. You could watch it.
Let's not bring back the.
No. I'm talking. No. I'm talking about the original 3 movies.
Fair enough.
Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. Even though Return of the Jedi is the weakest one because that was when he started being like, let's make it more kiddie. Yeah. Ewoks, yay.
Although, I mean, you got to hand it to him. I mean, that was smart because, I mean, those toys, Star Wars toys always, I feel like, do well.
They did phenomenal with the toys.
Yeah.
But I mean,
even the first 3 chapters, which I couldn't, other than the Yoda Cuisinart fight with Christopher Lee, I don't remember anything about the first 3 movies.
That was amazing.
That was amazing.
Seriously, it's like, if you would have told me it was just like, one day you will see Yoda just in a lightsaber fight against Christopher Lee, Dracula, Saruman, that guy, and they're gonna be just thrashing, just going berserk with lightsabers. You're gonna see that. You're gonna witness that in your lifetime. I would have been like, you are on crack.
And it's so funny because earlier in the film, he's just hobbling about his cane,
bullshit,
being all slow and shit. And then all of a sudden,
con artist. Yeah, he just opens his robe and holds it. He doesn't even take the sword out. He holds up his hand and lets it float into his hand. He's just like, check this out, bitch.
He He was badass in that movie. But that's the only thing I remember. But anyway, like even then, in the first 3 chapters, the toys and the licensing and retail did phenomenally well for those films.
Oh God, even the crappy things that nobody cares about,
like McDonald's Happy Meal toys.
No, I'm talking about the movies. Oh. It's like, I have to have Lobot, the guy with the metal thing around his head in Cloud City. Oh, I got to have the guy running in the background carrying the ice cream machine. That guy has a history now, and a character, and an action figure. Did
anybody purchase Jar Jar Binks stuff?
You know they did. And to the point where there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, man, Jar Jar Binks, he was the secret Sith Lord. Is
that running the gamut?
That's
now?
That's what a lot of people, they've made their little theories, and that was one of them, because the Emperor couldn't have won if it wasn't for the stupidity of Jar Jar Binks. He gave him the power. He helped him dissolve the Senate.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's the hot take for the night.
But it's the toys, and like I said, even the most insignificant character gets a toy because there is such a fervent fan base who are just like, we got to have it all.
Right.
Even the damage that those prequels did to the legacy of Star Wars
didn't really hurt it,
or the damage that the later films did. What was that last one? The Return of Skywalker, or the last Skywalker? Oh, God.
Never bring that up again. I would rather watch 1, 2, and 3 again before I watch that.
Anyway.
I encourage Disney to come back to this well. Seriously.
Yeah, you botched it horribly the first time, but there was a good idea there.
Yeah, and this is something that can be salvaged, and I think in the right hands could be something worth pursuing.
Mm-hmm.
You get the right... Again, you cannot have a good movie without a good writer.
Yeah.
I think this... let this also be a cautionary tale. This really needed like 2 or 3 extra rewrites.
Mm-hmm.
And get yourself a good writer, somebody who understands sci-fi.
And someone who could nail the landing. I mean, Christ, that ending was... I can't even get over that. Like, the beginning of the film, I was fine. Yeah. I was like, you know what? This is actually pretty enjoyable.
Yeah.
And it just got worse and worse and worse as the film went on.
I didn't hate it as much as you, but I understand where you're coming from. And I sort of agree. I don't think it's that monumentally bad, but there were parts of this where I was like, what in the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
No. What would you give this one?
I would give this, I think... Again, I didn't dislike it as much as you. I thought that for a movie from 79, it looks really nice, especially the outer exterior shots.
The effect shots of space look really good.
Really good.
I mean, the interiors look garbage.
Ridley Scott's Alien, no, it doesn't hold a candle. But I think for what it is, I think it's decent. I think the kernel of the story was interesting. Unfortunately, there were weak bits to it, and I wish that if those things had been addressed, maybe this could have been better. So I'm going to give this, I guess I'll give it a 6.5. I was thinking 7, but...
Jesus, come on.
I didn't dislike it. And I didn't hate the end. Well, the ending was weird, but I didn't hate it.
All right.
This didn't piss me off like the James Bond movie.
Yeah,
like the ending of that was, I wanted to stab everyone after that film.
That hurt more because, I mean, 1, it was just a bad ending, and 2, it was just a bad ending to a legacy character that we've watched over a series of movies.
Right. And I also like this liked that incarnation of Bond, which was played by Daniel Craig, but whatever.
I will give this a 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really? A 3?
Yeah, because like I said, 5 is, I don't love it or hate it. 4 is not good. 3 is bad. This is a bad movie. It is straight up bad. Avoid this movie. It is not good.
I don't agree.
I feel you are being way too generous. In my mind, even if the ending didn't bother you, it doesn't deserve more than a 5.
that, though.
All right. Agree to disagree. This is a 3.
To you.
To me, and I'm sure many people who have sat there mind-boggled by how terrible
that
it is.
If you are in our age range and can remember seeing this, I think give it a revisit.
No, keep your nostalgia. Don't watch this movie
I think
again.
there's people out there like me that would enjoy this. I think there are people like you that will not, but I think if you're in our age range, I think 70% of those people would be like, hey, that was fun. It's not a long film.
I disagree strongly.
It's not a long film. I thought it was really well done for the most part. It had an interesting premise. The performances were all great. Maximilian Schell as Dr. Reinhardt was definitive kind of evil doctor.
Yeah, he was good.
He was really good. I really liked Dan, the captain. I loved Roddy McDowall. I know you thought he was kind of a jerk, but...
Not a jerk, just pretentious.
Okay, fair enough.
Like I said, you wouldn't want to be sitting next to that guy at a party.
I loved Bob.
Bob I still liked. Bob, he survived because he was just such a sad sack.
I liked Charlie, the young
good-hearted robot. He was like one of those actors that was just like 70s and that was it.
Yeah, I liked Kate. Although her performance was a little wooden, but I think she was all right. I liked her.
Yeah, I mean, the acting was okay.
The production design.
Ernest Borgnine should have done more voice work. He had a great voice.
Maybe he should have been a robot.
Well, I think he was. Yeah, you got to see my face.
Yeah. Well, whatever. I don't know. I still think it works. I think that definitely with a lot of tweaking, this could be maybe redone in a way that could be successful for Disney and even warrant a franchise. I don't think it should be a limited series. I think just make it as a film.
Yeah.
All right. So you say 3, I say 6.5. Audience, you decide. And with that, we will bid you all a
good night.
Good night.